Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. I apologize for I apologize for you know being away for so long. I had to my I had to help my mother get the groceries out the car. Um but yeah, today we're doing a Jane Doe story. Um like I said, I'm doing stories on the Jane Doe cases. Um and to on y'all. Today, um this is about the 1982 um sheep flat Jane Doe. Now, for those who may not know the story or may not have heard of the story, um, let me give you a little snippet of this. Um, there was a woman who went to a motel in another state, and in a wash, and it was in Washoe, and if I'm correct, it was in Washoe County. Um, and also this county is in another state. But yeah, and man, and when I read this story and saw this story, I was like, man, this is just that. And I have a video that will explain more about this case, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna and then after the video is played, I'm gonna go ahead and give my 2 cents on this, and then I'm gonna go ahead and give out my final thoughts and my condol. And first, I want to go ahead and give my condolences to the family of Mary Silvani. That's the name of the Jane Doe that we're talking about today. Um, and and on May 6th of 2019, they identified the 1982 sheep flat Jane Doe as Mary Silvani. My condolences goes out to her family, and I have a video to show y'all. I have 5 of them that I'll be showing here today. So yeah. Um. Here's the first video right here.
In Tahoe, July 17th, 1982, a group of hikers found a dead woman several hundred yards off of the Mount Rose Highway. At the time, detectives had no idea who she was. She had been fatally shot in the back of the head, execution style. Forensics determined that she had been dead approximately 24 hours before her body was found. Detectives assumed that because the body was fresh, they would make rapid progress in solving the case. However, the killer left no clues, and detectives were never able to identify who the woman was, and she was termed the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe and became one of many unsolved cold cases. Until 2019, when Washoe County homicide detectives announced that they had solved the murder case. Using DNA technology, they were finally able to identify the woman as Mary Edith Silvani, who was 33 years old at the time of her death. They were also able to identify the man who ruthlessly shot Mary. That man was identified as James Richard Curry. In 1982, Curry, who was the manager of a storage lot in Santa Clara, had confessed to killing a couple who ran a rival storage facility in the San Jose area. Curry had shot the man, Gerald Novoselotz, and kidnapped and sexually assaulted his wife before killing her elsewhere. While in custody, Curry also confessed to fatally shooting Richard Lemon Jr. of Bakersfield and told detective where to find his body stashed in the Santa Clara storage unit. He then killed himself while in prison before ever being sentenced for the 3 murders he had confessed to. But Curry had never mentioned killing Mary Silvani in Tahoe, and while it's unclear why he decided to shoot her that night, it does bring into question whether or not he was responsible for other deaths in the Nevada region. On September 21st, 1975, the remains of 23-year-old Joanna Robinson were discovered in a shallow grave. Her remains were nearby Derby Dam, an exit along Interstate 80 east of Reno, Nevada. Her cause of death could not be determined. However, based upon the circumstances and the fact she was last seen in Oregon, the case is being investigated as a homicide. On March 25th, 1979, body of 20-year-old Julia Woodward was discovered in the hills near Lemon Valley, Nevada, north of Reno. She had been en route from San Francisco Airport to seek employment in the South Lake Tahoe area. She died of blunt force trauma to the head. On November 2nd, 1979, the skeletal remains of Jeannie Smith, age 17, were found in Lemon Valley, Nevada. She died as a result of blunt force trauma. Her remains were found in a shallow grave about 1 mile from where Julia Woodward had been discovered in March of the same year. On June 5th, 1979, Sherry Harbeke, age 20, was found severely decomposed under a mattress along North Virginia Street in North Reno. She had been shot to death. These murders all took place a couple years before Curry's 1982 killing spree, and police never really had a valid person of interest for the cases. So was it possible that these women were another one of Curry's victims? Investigators believe that Julia and Jeannie were killed by the same person. Their bodies were found in the same general area, and they were both killed by blunt force trauma to the head. But Curry shot all 4 of his victims to death, and with both Julia and Jeannie going missing within a couple of months from one another, the killer most likely lived in the area. Not much is known about Joanna Robinson's case or her cause of death. All that is known is that, like Julia Woodward, she traveled to Tahoe for work. And then there's Sherry Harbeke. Unlike the other women, she was shot to death and in the back of the head, just like Mary Silvani was. It's unclear what the motives were behind each 4 women's deaths. And since Curry is dead, their cases may only be solved if there was any DNA evidence left.
Yeah, that's the and that's the end of that video right there. Um, again, there's another one that I wanted to show y'all too. Um, mm, okay. Here's another one.
It was a summer day in 1982. The sun was shining on Sheep's Flat, near Lake Tahoe. A group of hikers made a grim discovery. They found the body of a young woman. She had been killed, but no one knew who she was. The police came quickly. They looked for clues. They took pictures. They tried to find out who the woman was. But they couldn't. She had no ID. No one came forward to claim her. She became known as the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe. The case puzzled everyone. Who was this woman? Why was she in Sheep's Flat? Who had killed her? These questions hung in the air. They would remain unanswered for many years. The Sheep's Flat Jane Doe became a mystery. The community was shocked. People wondered if a killer was among them. The police worked hard. They followed every lead, but each one led nowhere. The case went cold. The Sheep's Flat Jane Doe was buried without a name. Her story was far from over. Years passed. The case of the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe sat on a shelf. Detectives came and went. Each one looked at the file. They all hoped to find something new. But nothing changed. The woman remained nameless. Technology improved. New ways to solve crimes were invented. The police tried these new methods. They ran her fingerprints again. They looked at missing persons reports. Still, no matches were found. It seemed like the case might never be solved. The community didn't forget. Every year, someone would ask about the case. Local newspapers wrote stories. They reminded people about the mystery, but no new information came in. The Sheep's Flat Jane Doe was still a Jane Doe. Decades went by. The 1980s became the 1990s. Then came the 2000s. The case file grew dusty, but inside that file was a secret. It was waiting to be unlocked. The key would come from a place no one expected. Science was about to change everything. In 2018, something big happened. A new kind of science was being used to solve crimes. It was called genetic genealogy. This science uses DNA to find family members. The police decided to try it on the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe case. They took DNA from the Jane Doe. They put it into a special database. This database had DNA from many people. These people were looking for their families. The computer started searching. It looked for people who shared DNA with Jane Doe. Suddenly, there was a match. The DNA was similar to someone in the database. This person was related to Jane Doe. It was a breakthrough. After 36 years, there was hope. The mystery might finally be solved. The police were excited. They worked with genealogists. These experts build family trees. They traced the DNA back through time. They looked at birth records and death certificates. Slowly, a picture began to form. The Jane Doe was about to get her name back. Section 4. Unmasking Mary Silvani, a life revealed. The genealogists kept working. They built a family tree. It led them to a name, Mary Silvani. She was born in 1948 in Detroit. She had been missing for years. No one had reported her missing. It was sad, but now she had her name back. But now, after all these years, people knew her name. Mary Silvani was no longer a Jane Doe. But there was still one big question. Who killed her? Section 5. The Hunt for a Killer. Tracing the culprit. With Mary identified, the focus shifted. Who had killed her? The police used the same method that identified Mary. They put the killer's DNA into the database. They waited for a match. It didn't take long. The DNA led to a man named James Richard Curry. He had died in jail in 1983. He was there for other crimes. Curry had never been a suspect in Mary's case. But now, the evidence was clear. He was Mary's killer. The police looked into Curry's past. He had a long criminal record. He had hurt other people too. But he died before he could be punished for killing Mary. It was a bittersweet discovery. The killer was known, but he couldn't be brought to justice. The case was now solved. Mary had her name back. Her killer was identified. It was more than anyone had hoped for after so many years. The power of science had cracked a decades-old mystery, but the story wasn't over yet. Section 6. Justice at Last, Closure, and Reflection. The solving of Mary Silvani's case made news. It showed how powerful new science could be. Cold cases everywhere might now be solved. Families of missing people had new hope. For the detectives, it was a big win. Now they could close the file. They had also found her killer. It was a proud moment for law enforcement. The community felt relief. They could now remember Mary Silvani as a person, not just a Jane Doe. Her story touched many hearts. Mary Silvani's story ended with her name restored.
And that was another one. And then we're going to do another one. And in this video, they're going to explain about how the case got solved again. So here's another video.
And Rito, you're watching 2 News at 5.
Thanks to new technology and DNA genealogy, officials now know the identity of the victim known as Sheep's Flat Jane Doe. Good evening, I'm Kristen Remington.
And I'm Landon Miller. Thank you for keeping it here at 5 o'clock. The victim's name was Mary Edith Silvani, and her killer was James Richard Curry. Both were identified by genealogists. Paul Nelson picks up the story live in the newsroom with more developments on this. And Paul, what does this case say about DNA, its evidence, and all of that?
Well, it's evolving, Landon. Detectives didn't know anything about the victim or the suspect, yet their DNA solved the crime. It all happened because detectives teamed up with the private genealogists to identify them through their relatives.
It's such an interesting crime and it's such an interesting solve with so many twists and turns.
Until recently, investigators had never heard of Mary Silvani. They only knew her as Sheep's Flat Jane Doe. She died of a gunshot wound in the summer of '82, and her case went cold. Now detectives know her name and the suspects, James Richard Curry.
It feels really good to see that done because I really feel that now with any cold cases with DNA, you really have a good chance now to identify suspects and victims.
The Washoe County Sheriff's Office teamed up with the DNA Doe Project and Identifinders International to find out who they were. The private genealogist used a large database of DNA to find their relatives, family members who have their DNA results online.
If you upload your stuff to the internet, it's available. But yet, that's the world we live in. Data is data. You know, we share data with everybody.
Silvani's profile led them to her parents, John and Blanche Silvani, in Detroit. They eventually found out that the suspect was the grandson of a Dallas couple. James Curry was one of their son's illegitimate child.
To be able to identify the suspect victim and then bring this case to a closure is a great day for the sheriff's office and all those that worked on it.
Curry killed himself in jail in January of 1983, shortly after confessing to 3 other murders in the Bay Area. Detectives first used his DNA from Silvani's sexual assault kit in 2000.
This came back several months later that they actually had a good profile on the suspect's DNA, but there was no hits in the system.
Curry's DNA wasn't in CODIS because he died years before that national database began. Washoe County has about 30 unsolved homicides. The sheriff hopes this kind of work can help solve some of those and future crimes. Covering Crime Beat live in the newsroom, Paul Nelson, 2 News.
Yep. And I believe that's it for the videos. Yep, that's it. As y'all heard, it took them until it took them a long time to to find out who she was, and it turns out it was indeed Mary Silvani that went missing down there. Now I do believe that certain county, Washoe, that Washoe County may be in Nevada. It may be, I don't know, but it's in another state, which means, once again, they have to, not only did they have to go down there and retrieve and retrieve the body, but again, they weren't able to identify her until years later. And on May 6th, 2019 is when they were able to do it. And yeah, and they I think it took a little bit longer to find out who her killer was, and it turns out her killer was indeed James Kirk. I think what happened is that number is this. And James was, I think he was talking. He wanted to now this is me saying this, but I believe that Mary rejected James, and James was upset that she turned him down. So then he had an idea to take her life, and again, I think he thought he got away with it, and even and he, he went to jail for the other three murders. Mm, and let me see if I can look up where Washoe County is real quick. See if I can find it. Yep, it's in Nevada. So Mary went on a hiking. Well, again, there were teens who found um who found Miss Silvani's body in the woods, and it. This whole story is just that, and this story also shows that once again, m- when a woman says no to a man, that is where the real danger starts. And I'm gonna say and like I said before, I'll say this again. This is really, really sad. It really is. And again, I want to give the Silvani family my condolences. I believe if Mary Silvani was still alive, I think she would probably be. She would probably be in her early 40s if she was still alive today. She didn't deserve to have her life taken like that. As, and especially not by a man who, eh, especially by a man who it seems he's narcissistic to a fault. And that's the thing about. And I also want to say this, women, if you say no to a man who is narcissistic and he winds up wanting to do harm to you after you told him no, make sure you have something with you so you can protect yourself from that man, because he will try and take your life. And, and again, this right here is a sad story. And again, I'm going to say this because at the end of the day, it has to be said. Women, make sure that you protect yourselves at all times. If you're traveling by yourself, make sure you have something to protect you, from harm. Get your license to carry. If you have someone who can teach you martial art, mixed martial arts, then you should take that opportunity as well, because this story and other stories like this, it's like it keeps happening. It keeps happening every day, and it really is sad. Um, and in the first video, you heard about other women that had their lives taken. I hope their cases are solved as well. And my condolences goes out to their families as well. Um, again, and again, this is really a sad story. Um, I'm gonna end with my final thoughts here. Women, beware of the narcissistic man. If you are in a relationship and you reject the person who wants to be in a relationship with you, and you go ahead, and they go ahead and want to take your life, that's when you got to get the police involved. And it's especially true when it comes to black women. Black women, you know, black women who don't want to see, you know, who don't want to be responsible for black men going to jail. Your life could be in danger. Therefore, you need to get the police involved. And another thing, what I want to say about this too, is this right here. Make sure that you get, you know, and also make sure to alert your loved ones on where you're at all times. Because, and that goes for all women as well. Because you never know when something like this may happen. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream here. I want to thank those of you who came today. Make sure to like, comment, share, and also subscribe to the channel and make sure you're notified whenever I go live. May Mary Silvani rest in peace. And until next time, love, peace, and happiness. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.